Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring and a very special video. As some of you may have noticed already, the channel has recently passed 14,000 subscribers, and that's just wow. That's huge. It's not huge in the grand scheme of YouTube perhaps, and in fact there are other channels that have started since I have and which are already bigger or growing at a much more rapid pace, but I couldn't be happier with where I am today. Ultimately, all I really wanted to do was carve out my own little corner of YouTube where I could create videos about things I like, hoping that other people would eventually find those videos, like them too, and decide to hang around in the comments. I just wanted to make my own little fun place, and I really feel that, thanks only to all of you, I've managed that. So first of all, thank you. I make one of these videos every time I get another 1,000 subscribers. I used to do them every time I got 100 new subscribers, and the message is always the same. Thank you. None of this would be possible without all of you watching the videos, and it wouldn't be possible without you liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing. That kind of support is so important to the growth of the channel. But also I want to extend a thank you to anyone who has found other ways to support the channel's growth. Thank you to everyone who has joined the Always Bored Never Boring Members Club. Your monthly subscription payments all go directly into the channel to purchase new games and materials to convert into new content. For those of you who don't know about the club, you can join using the button below the video or the link in the video description, and membership grants access to some exclusive emojis and member badges, members polls on content creation and a weekly newsletter type thing where you get to know a bit more about what's going on behind the scenes. And of course, thank you to everyone who has made generous donations using the super thanks options, everyone who has kindly donated miniatures to my Advanced Hero Quest project, and the many wonderful companies who have extended offers to collaborate. I am constantly overwhelmed by the generosity of my viewers and collaborators. Without all of you, we wouldn't be celebrating 14,000 subscribers today. So thank you, honestly. But I don't want to stop here, so please keep on doing what you're doing. Please keep coming back, watching the videos, sharing your thoughts, and as Batman once said, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Oh, and another thing, if you haven't started following me on Instagram, please consider doing so. I'm thinking of putting some extra painting guides on there that I can't get into videos on the main channel. You'll find the link, as always, in the video description below. With that out of the way, let's move on to something else. This is a celebration video, so I thought I would do a quick top 7 list for you. The algorithm really loves lists, and I thought as something a little different, it would be fun to reel off my top 7 Grail games. After all, I spend a lot of time on the channel talking about the childhood games I've managed to reacquire, so let's see what I am still looking for. First though, how am I defining a Grail game? Simple really, it's a game that is hard to get hold of for one reason or another. A game you really want, but it's something of a quest to track it down and own it for yourself. However, I should clarify, none of these are games I would buy at any price. I am always realistic about what I am prepared to spend. So, what we have here is a list of 7 games that I have wanted for a long time and would buy if the stars aligned, i.e. a good clean complete copy came up for sale at a good price at a time when I had the spare money to buy it. First up is Aliens from Leading Edge. This game came out in 1989 and it recreates several key scenes from the movie. You have the investigation of the reactor room, which is my favourite moment in the film. It's a dry heat. Then there is the escape from operations through the air ducts, and finally the confrontation between Ripley and the alien queen. There was one expansion for the game released in 1990, which included additional scenarios such as Ripley's hunt to find Newt in the Queen's lair. Leading Edge also made a range of metal miniatures which could be used with this game. And it is very much a game of its time, with punch-out cards, standees for playing pieces and a paper map. But what it lacks in quality components, it certainly makes up for with fun gameplay that accurately reproduces the heart-pounding key events of one of the greatest movies ever made. I already own Alien: Fate of the Nostromo, Operation Aliens and the Alien vs Predator miniatures game with the expansion and extra units, and I have resigned myself to the fact that I am going to have to pick up another Glorious Day in the Core now that Gale Force 9 have released a revised edition. But darned if I don't want a nice copy of Leading Edge's effort too. Sticking with the theme of aliens, the next game on the list is the Aliens Predator customizable card game. This was a game from 1997. I started collecting it when I was at university, at a time when I was otherwise having a break from board games. This was after I had sold all my Magic the Gathering cards and every scrap of Games Workshop content I had hoarded over my childhood. But I saw the starter sets for the Aliens Predator card game in a comic book store and instinctively purchased all 3. one for aliens, one for predators, and one for colonial marines. I guess I thought it might be a fun thing to collect, or maybe I was snatching at a little bit of the hobby I had unceremoniously dumped on my route to higher education. Most likely, it was just my love of the Aliens movies. Regardless, I started collecting, and it was a pretty fun game, but the problem was this was the 90s. I didn't know anybody else who was collecting the game, didn't know of any game clubs where I could go to play it, sure as heck didn't have access to the internet to buy, sell and swap my way to a complete set. All I had to rely on was buying booster packs, and those booster packs were aggressively mundane. I spent a small fortune and I don't think I ever found a single named character or any of the decent equipment. I had no Ripley, no Hudson, no Hicks, no smart gun, no tactical smart missiles, no RPGs, no sharp sticks. Sure, it was fun choosing to play a Predator and arming him with a range of high-tech gadgets, but there was only so many times I could send a group of unnamed grunts into battle armed with pistols to get murdered by the aliens. So one day, after being annoyed by a lack of the cards that would really let me feel like I was engaging in the franchise the way I wanted to, I packed a lot up and stored them away, and then years later, sold them. And now I would like to play the game again. Of course, I want to play the game I couldn't back then. I want all the rare named characters, a full set of everything. But alas, the cards don't turn up on eBay very often, certainly not in complete sets, and when they do, they are obscenely expensive. So this is probably one that will always stay as part of my past. By the way, a few years before the Aliens Predator game, I had been collecting the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth The Wizards card game, and that had followed pretty much the same trajectory. I enjoyed the game, was annoyed I couldn't source the rare and named characters I wanted, stored it, then sold it. I guess I'll never learn. But these are titles that would both probably be really good as living card games. And on the subject of Middle-earth, number 3 on my list is Middle-earth Quest from Fantasy Flight Games. This game came out in 2009 and it was one of those titles that I wanted from the start. What's not to love about heroes roaming around Middle-earth going on quests and beating up the agents of Sauron? But there was always something that stopped me from pulling the trigger on making the purchase. It was pretty expensive, there were quality issues with the first printing, broken miniatures and the like, it was quite a big complex game and that always makes me consider a purchase carefully, and most importantly of all, it wasn't a game you could play solo, and at the time I didn't have a group of people I could play with. In hindsight, I should have just bought it anyway. I have a game group now that would play the heck out of this. But the game is long out of print and copies rarely come up for sale in the UK. When they do, they are often in rough condition and incredibly expensive. One day when I have the spare cash burning a hole in my pocket, I will pick this up. It's still easier to find and cheaper than many other things on this list. Next is City of Chaos from 1996, a game that has fascinated me since I first learned about it. It has wonderful artwork, unusual pewter miniatures, and a style of gameplay that allows you to gradually explore and reveal this incredible city populated with bizarre characters. The city is created randomly, and as you explore you start to build your own unique story, reading paragraphs from a book that slowly adds context and flavour to what you're doing. There's combat, RPG elements as you upgrade your character and learn new skills, and a sense of being part of a living world filled with people who are living their own lives. The game is pretty rare in the UK. It turns up on eBay from time to time, sometimes obscenely expensive, sometimes a little bit more reasonable. But it isn't just the price and lack of purchasing options that has caused me to hold off buying it. Over 3 years ago, the designer announced that there was going to be a 25th anniversary edition with Ares games attached. Naturally, I thought I would wait to see what happened there. A revised edition with some of the clunky rules refined, but hopefully with the same gloriously bizarre aesthetic sounded good to me, and I was happy to wait. Unfortunately, as of making this video, the 25th anniversary of the game has been and gone, and there is still no sign of the game coming out. The designer did explain that an Ares schedule reshuffle had pushed the game back to the end of 2021. A Facebook page was launched for the game, which started showcasing art, but the last post on that page was in September 2022. And I'll be honest, I think I preferred the game's original aesthetic. As it stands, City of Chaos is in a bit of a limbo, and I am in a limbo too. I still want the game, but I dither between picking up an expensive original and holding out hope that a new edition will emerge from whatever development hell it's spiraled into. Next is a real classic, one of the games that started it all. Before HeroQuest, before Space Crusade, I was already playing heavily thematic games like Ghost Castle, which you may know as Witch Witch, Bewitched, and Escape from Atlantis. But the best of them all was Lost Valley of the Dinosaurs, published by Waddingtons in 1985. I would have been 6 at the time, and boy, this game engrossed me in another world. Little plastic T-Rexes and a swamp monster chasing around little explorers as they searched for gold in a lost temple. It couldn't have been more up my street without being painted road markings. The pterodon could swoop down and take explorers to its nest, and the volcano would always erupt, spilling lava all over the board and cutting off vital escape routes. The explorers had guns with limited ammo which they could use to scare off the dinosaurs, but those dinos always came back, hungrier than ever, and every player was out for themselves, desperately racing to collect the most gold in this deadly valley. It was brilliant. Fortunately, this is probably the easiest thing to acquire on my list, and I can't imagine it will be too long until I find a really good clean copy at a reasonable price. Next is the biggest title on the list, the first edition of Space Hulk, along with the Genestealer and Deathwing expansions. I guess this game needs no real introduction, it's a solid gold classic. Unfortunately, prices just keep on going up, especially for the expansions. Not only are prices topping out my budget, I also have to consider that I do have a beautiful 3rd edition of the game, so I do technically have the game already and can play it whenever I like. It's just not the edition I really want. It's not the best edition. I can't see a copy of this ever turning up cheap anywhere, so this one might have to wait until I win the lottery. And finally, we have the game that's on the very top of my Grail list, Hybrid, published by Rackham in 2003. This is one of the most beautiful games ever made. It has a glorious, gory and gothic, rich, evocative theme, and it's shipped with pewter miniatures representing the heroes who have ventured into dark underground labyrinths to destroy vile experiments, and also miniatures for those experiments. It shares some DNA with Space Hulk, but it's much more involved. Characters have different stances they can adopt, which defines what they can do in a turn. Adopt a moving stance to gain perks to how you move around the beautifully illustrated map tiles, or adopt a defensive stance to hold a corridor against advancing enemies. There is also a much larger selection of forces, both for the heroes and villains, and there were many character and unit packs to help you create customized forces. Playing as the enemy is just as engaging and rewarding as playing as the heroes. You aren't just controlling mindless monsters that run as fast as possible to get into battle. I actually think the game probably has a little more in common with Incursion by Grindhouse Games, although Incursion was a game I didn't enjoy at all, and Hybrid is much more involved. It's getting very close to the top end of fiddliness that I'm prepared to tolerate, but the actual game is so good I can forgive that. And I would know, because really this game shouldn't be on my list of Grail games at all, because I bought it. Whenever my channel reaches a milestone, or it's getting near to a milestone, I treat myself to something special. And Hybrid, complete with the boxed expansion Nemesis and a selection of extra units, turned up at a good price, so I bought it. I'm not going to say any more about it right now, but in the future you can expect to see some more of this game on the channel as I paint up all the awesome miniatures and play through some games. But that is it from me for now. Let me know your Grail games in the comments, and if you like the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.